Welcome back to Great Day Hope after Harvey. So a lot of people are out of their homes. They need some place to live. And when I was with my sister-in-law, whose home went underwater, people came in constantly. Do you have anything available? Anything available? Anything available? Well, guess what? Most places are already snatched up, but a good realtor can get you into a temporary property. So joining us right now, we have Amy Bernstein with Bernstein Realty, Katie Maxwell, and Tory Gunsolley. He is the CEO of the Houston Housing Authority. All right. Thank you all very much for joining us.
Thank you.
I'm going to start with you, Tory, because a lot of folks, when I was at the GRB, were coming over to the Houston Housing Authority saying, I don't have a place, I need a place. You service a certain part of the community, correct?
Sure. So we serve about 60,000 folks in Houston, and we don't have the capacity to serve more. So we're not equipped for emergency housing, and we're really trying to assess the needs of those 60,000.
Right. So the people who can come to you are who? The people who are already part of your system?
People who are already part of the system, unless and when Congress passes a bill changing things. But for now, the people who are already clients of ours.
All right. And so how are you able to help them if their property that they're living in right now is just not livable?
A variety of ways, and some of that will also depend on what Congress does. But right now we're doing an assessment, and then we'll be finding alternatives. And it really depends if they're in the voucher program or public housing. But at the end of the day, we're going to take care of our folks.
All right. A lot of folks don't think about a realtor when it comes to rental property, but you can do that.
Absolutely. A realtor can do any type of rental, whether it's an individual home, townhome, high-rise, or an apartment. We can assist you in that wide range of different types of property.
And especially right now when things are a little different, you know, standard leases are like 6 months, a year, whatever. You can also try to negotiate a lease that could be a little less, maybe a little more.
Absolutely. Immediately when the storm hit, I think on day 2, we created a few of us within our association created a Facebook group called Housing After Harvey. So you can check that out too. And it's just about 3,000 people now trying to match people with available dry housing for temporary or like 3 to 6 months and even lesser deposit amounts.
Yeah. And of course, one of the tough things is, let's say you're getting repairs done on your house, and I heard you ask this question because it was a 6-month lease. You said, what if the repairs are done in 5 months? Can they just move out then without breaking a lease? So you got to ask the right questions.
Right. So the lease is totally, you're committed to the 6 months when you sign it, but up front when you're trying to get the lease, you can say, can I have a clause in there that says if my home that I'm fixing gets finished, can I have the option to terminate this lease early? And I think today, everything is a little different. And this is the new normal. And the new normal is, this is how we do it, but we're in an unusual situation. Can we have a little bit of a reprieve from what is the unusual situation right now?
Yeah, because you even asked, you said, do you have models? If you have models, we need to rent those now.
Exactly. And they're furnished.
Yeah.
Which many times that's fantastic.
Yeah, and a realtor can save you unnecessary trips, because I think a lot of people were showing up when they were saying, we don't have anything for lease, but it was like, well then put up a sign that says that, right?
Yeah, we're actually asking everyone, all the members of our association, to go in and mark their listings, dry, so we can immediately know. And they've also added that tab that'll be live today to show us if they're dry or not.
Yeah, and also homes that were on the market previously for sale, you may be able to work with people and say, can you rent it instead or lease it?
We're getting a lot of calls for listings of ours that we had on the market for sale, and would you consider leasing it? And a lot of homeowners are A, empathetic to the situation and are leasing it, and B, seeing it as an opportunity to lease their home until things settle down and we get back to normal again. So it's kind of a win-win for many.
Yeah. All right. Back to the Housing Authority for a second here. There's a little bit of paperwork that people need to do, don't they, or online work?
Yeah. So online, we're asking everybody to go to housingforhouston.com and let us know how they're doing. And we've expanded the capability, so any housing authority in the region that was impacted, you can go onto that website, and we'll coordinate with your local housing authority as well as ourselves. But you still need to register for FEMA. So this doesn't replace FEMA. This is just helping the housing authorities assist our clients better. All right.
We have a question on Facebook. Joe says, how will flood damage history affect my future home sale? You have to disclose things. And I think with so many homes being flooded, it'll be no surprise to a lot of folks. But how can that impact the sale of a home, and what do you need to do to make sure you can keep the integrity of that sale?
So in the past, flood was considered a big mark on a property that it had flooded. So people were a little cautious about buying those flooded properties. Today, I think it's a matter of more have flooded than not. So I think it's a completely isolated, unusual situation, but it will have to be disclosed. I would just tell every seller to keep all their documentation of what they did to remediate properly so that the new buyer doesn't worry about any mold or anything like that.
Yeah.
So just to keep all your documentation and photos so you can show what you did once the property flooded to put it back into its state properly.
And that speaks to if you have a home that you're having repairs on, you have to get somebody
Absolutely.
professional to do it.
We even thought this morning when we were all talking about having mold remediators or mold inspectors come out and actually watch the process so they can sign off on it at the end to say that during the process of the new construction, it was done the right way.
Yeah. All right. We're going to go to a couple of questions we have over here in our audience. Kathy, good morning.
Good morning.
And what's your question?
My question is that the flood came in at the bottom of my door, but it only did a small area of the carpet, like around in the front around. So my question is, should I replace the whole carpet? And who would be responsible? I am a renter. I live in an apartment complex.
All right, so we're talking about not spilling a bottled water, but the dirty water that came in, and all of our toxicologists and stuff are saying replace stuff, replace it. Don't try to clean it, replace it. But in a case like this, when she's a renter, who's normally responsible for replacing it?
So in a case where you're the renter, the landlord is responsible for replacing that carpet or putting it back into the state that it was when you leased the property. And so that is something that should not be on the burden of the tenant, but you can expect as a tenant to be able to have the property in the same condition that you signed on to lease it for.
All right. Kenny, good morning. What's your question?
Good morning, and I have a question. I live in an apartment for 7 years, and they just broke my lease because of the flood. Do they have to pay my full deposit and half of the rent?
Okay, and we talked about that with our lawyer a little bit earlier. Unless you get clearance from that landlord, it's kind of a sticky situation. So typically, if a place is uninhabitable, yes. You signed a lease, so it's a binding document, but again, we can't say enough, I think, talk to your landlord.
So we've had several calls over the last week regarding this. So we actually contacted an attorney that we work closely with to get the correct answer, because we're not attorneys, to be able to pass on that advice to our clients. And the first thing that you would need to do as a tenant is to contact your landlord to see what he or she intends to do with the property. If they intend to fix it quickly and it's not a total loss but a partial loss, and he or she can put you right back in their property quickly, then great. If you have to be displaced, you have to move out because it was more than partial, then yes, the attorney said that you would most likely be entitled to your full deposit back, along with any prorated unused rent.
All right. Kamisha, hi there.
Hey, how are you? My question is regarding the housing lottery. Will you guys be opening back up the lottery and providing housing for people that were affected by the storm?
Yeah, so right now the Housing Authority doesn't have any additional funding or capacity. We are pushing for additional funding and capacity, but as it stands today, it hasn't been authorized. So as of today, we're not able to issue more vouchers, but we hope that Congress will pass something that will allow us to do that.
All right. Susan's question was, the home we have under contract to buy flooded. Do we still have to close? Will we lose our earnest money?
Do you want to answer that?
We both probably have lots of, that's a loaded question, that's for sure. You can take the first part if you want.
So again, that's a question we got asked quite a bit this week, and so we contacted our attorney because we are not allowed to give legal advice. So we were told by the attorney that the seller has the right, or the option to put the property back in its condition when the buyer contracted for the property, but the buyer has the right not to move forward if the property cannot be restored to the condition they contracted by the closing date.
Wow.
And today with these floods, in order to remediate and to tear out and put back by a closing date, and the attorney said possibly there may be a little, about 15 wiggle room days, but that's very hard for probably most people to get a contractor and to get all that to happen.
Right.
So the buyer does have the right to terminate and could expect to get their earnest money back.
All right, you want to add to that?
Exactly. The contract is very black and white, and it says 15 days, but it doesn't say anything about Hurricane Harvey.
Right.
And nothing's happened in 15 days, so absolutely.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much.
Thank you.
When we come back, a lot of people breathed a sigh of relief and said, at least we had insurance. But do you know exactly what that insurance covers? We'll talk about that when we come back.